The ranch boss couldn't tame the black stallion until the girl everyone ignored whispered to the beast. The evening sun dipped low on the horizon, casting a warm golden hue across the sprawling ranch. Dust kicked up from the hooves of grazing horses, glistening in the fading light. The ranch boss leaned against the corral fence, his muscular arms crossed over his chest, eyes locked on the wild figure of the stallion as it danced defiantly inside the enclosure. The stallion was a magnificent creature, its coat dark as night, a symbol of untamed freedom. Yet for all its beauty, it represented a challenge that seemed insurmountable to him. With thick brows furrowed and a jaw set tight, he felt a familiar weight settle in his chest. This wasn't just about the horse, it was a reflection of his own struggles. Fear lurked beneath his pride. Memories of past failures haunted him, mistakes that left scars deeper than any whip could inflict. He had always been a man of strength, respected by his peers, yet here he was, battling a creature that mirrored his own internal turmoil. He couldn't help but feel a pang of jealousy. Perhaps the wild stallion was more than he could ever be. Maybe it was that very freedom he longed for yet refused to acknowledge. As the sun turned a fiery orange, casting long shadows behind him, he took a deep breath, attempting to quell the rising sense of anxiety. Just then, a soft voice broke through the evening stillness. The ranch boss looked up, momentarily surprised to see a girl approaching the stallion. She was not the kind of person he noticed often, overlooked by many, perhaps even invisible to him until that moment. Her clothes were simple, worn from years of labor, but there was an unspoken strength in her demeanor that intrigued him. The other ranch hands often treated her as an afterthought, but she moved with a quiet confidence that drew his attention. He watched as she stepped closer to the corral, her eyes fixed on the stallion with a tenderness that seemed genuine. The ranch boss felt a mix of curiosity and irritation. Who did she think she was, approaching the beast that had eluded him for so long? As she neared the fence, the stallion paused, its ears flicking back, sensing her presence. "Hey there, big guy," she murmured, her voice a soft melody against the backdrop of the ranch. There was an ease in her tone that the ranch boss had never utilized. The stallion shifted its weight, a flicker of recognition sparking in its eyes. The ranch boss felt a jolt of surprise. How could she connect with this creature so effortlessly? "Are you crazy?" he called out, trying to infuse authority into his voice. "That horse will throw you if you get too close." But the words came out less like a warning, and more like an expression of his own fears. She turned her head slightly, catching his eye. "Maybe he just needs someone who understands him," she replied, her gaze unwavering. There was defiance in her voice, and it stirred something inside the ranch boss. No one had ever spoken to him like that, as if they could see through the armor he wore so proudly. "Understanding doesn't tame a wild horse," he retorted, feeling his pride swell and fight against an unfamiliar vulnerability that bubbled beneath. Yet, deep down, he questioned the truth of his own statement. He had always believed that brute force and authority were the ways to command respect, to lead. The girl shifted her weight, drawing closer to the fence, ignoring his dismissive tone. "Maybe it's not just about the strength to control him, but the patience to build trust," she said softly, her eyes sparkling with conviction. There was a sincerity in her words that struck a chord with him. In that moment, the ranch boss found himself wanting to know more about her, to understand how she wielded such an emotional weapon with such ease. As she spoke to the stallion, her movements were graceful, almost choreographed. She reached out a hand slowly, palm up, as if inviting the stallion to come to her. For a brief moment, the ranch boss held his breath, captivated by the unfolding scene. The stallion took a cautious step forward, nostrils flaring as it sensed her calmness. "See?" she said, glancing back at him with a smile that held no hint of arrogance. "Sometimes it takes a different approach." It was hard to argue with the undeniable connection she was forging with the beast. The ranch boss blinked, surprised at the sudden swell of emotions churning within him. Was it envy? Curiosity? Perhaps it was a mixture of both. He had spent countless hours trying to break the stallion's spirit, yet here she was, whispering to it as if it were a trusted friend. As the sun dipped lower, casting a soft glow that enveloped them both. He felt a shift in his perspective. Perhaps this girl, whom everyone else dismissed, held the key to a deeper understanding, not just of the stallion, but of him as well. If only he could allow himself to see past his own fears and open up to the possibility of vulnerability, maybe he could learn something valuable. If you're enjoying this story, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, he thought, almost as an afterthought. It was that moment, standing there, tension mingling with curiosity, that marked the beginning of a journey neither of them anticipated. The ranch boss didn't know it yet, but this girl would challenge everything he believed about strength, control, and affection. The stallion took another step forward, drawn closer by her quiet confidence. And for the first time in a long while, the ranch boss felt the flicker of hope igniting within him, like the last rays of sunlight kissing the horizon. It was just the beginning, but it felt like the dawn of something significant, a connection that could change everything. As she approached the stallion, the girl's demeanor was unlike anyone the ranch boss had ever seen. There was a calmness and assurance that radiated from her, a stark contrast to the tension that usually filled the air around the corral. The ranch boss couldn't help but feel a pang of interest mixed with confusion. How did she possess such confidence? He observed as she spoke softly to the stallion, her words barely above a whisper, yet they held a tenderness that seemed to resonate with the wild creature. "Hey there, big guy," she cooed, her voice a soothing balm against the backdrop of the ranch's chaotic energy. The stallion, initially poised to bolt, stood still, captivated by her gentle tone. It was almost as if he recognized something in her, a shared spirit, perhaps. The ranch boss felt an unexpected stir within him, a flicker of hope mixed with disbelief. How could this girl, someone so overlooked by the ranch hands, have such a profound effect on the beast he had struggled with for so long? "Are you crazy?" he called out, trying to maintain an air of authority. It felt crucial to assert himself, to remind her that he was the ranch boss after all. "That horse will throw you if you get too close." His voice echoed, attempting to drown out the voice of uncertainty creeping into his mind. She turned her head, the sunlight catching the strands of her hair, creating a halo around her. "Maybe he just needs someone who understands him," she countered, her gaze steady and unyielding. That simple statement lingered in the air, challenging the very foundation of his beliefs about strength and control. The ranch boss clenched his jaw, irritation bubbling beneath the surface. Nobody questioned his authority, especially not a girl from the outskirts of town. "Understanding doesn't tame a wild horse," he replied, the words spilling out laced with bitterness. He was aware of how hollow they sounded, even to himself. As she drew closer to the fence, her eyes remained locked on the stallion, a creature that had eluded him at every turn. "Maybe it's not just about the strength to control him, but the patience to build trust," she said, her voice quiet yet laced with an unwavering conviction. Each word seemed to chip away at the walls he had built around his heart, walls crafted from years of pride and fear of vulnerability. The ranch boss felt a stirring in his chest, an unsettling mix of emotions he struggled to comprehend. He had always believed that leadership was rooted in power, in the ability to command respect through sheer dominance. Yet as he watched her interact with the stallion, he began to wonder if there was more to strength than what he had known. "Why do you even care?" he asked, his tone softer this time, perhaps revealing more than he intended. "This is just a horse. It's not worth the trouble." A part of him wanted to push her away, to reinforce his own beliefs, yet another part of him found himself drawn to her determination. The girl paused, her brow furrowing slightly. "Because he deserves a chance," she replied, her sincerity cutting through the air like a knife. "Just like everyone else out here." Those words struck him harder than he anticipated, a challenge, coupled with an unexpected understanding of hidden pain. He watched as she moved closer to the stallion, her hand outstretched, palm open. It was an invitation, a promise of safety, and for a moment, the ranch boss held his breath. The stallion, with its powerful stature and wild spirit, took a tentative step forward. That simple act felt monumental, as if both the horse and the girl were crossing an invisible line, one he had never dared to approach. "See?" she said, her eyes sparkling with a mixture of triumph and warmth. Sometimes it takes a different approach. The ranch boss couldn't help but notice how she smiled, not out of arrogance, but with a sense of shared accomplishment that seemed to infuse the moment with a sense of magic. But he was caught in a whirlpool of contrasting emotions. Jealousy clawed at him, a sickening feeling in the pit of his stomach. He had devoted countless hours to breaking the stallion's spirit, and yet, this girl, with her simple gestures, was doing what he had deemed impossible. It's not fair, he thought, grappling with the truth that perhaps he was the one who needed to learn. As the sun dipped lower in the sky, casting a golden hue over the landscape, he found himself questioning everything he thought he knew about strength and control. In her presence, the world felt different, softer, almost comforting. The ranch, with its rough edges and harsh realities, faded into the background as he focused solely on the girl and the stallion. "Do you always talk to animals like this?" he found himself asking, his curiosity getting the better of him. It was a simple question, yet it opened a door he hadn't realized had been closed for far too long. She looked over her shoulder, a playful smile dancing on her lips. "Only the ones who need it the most," she replied. There was a depth in her expression, a glimpse into her own struggles and triumphs that captivated him. He wanted to know more about her, to uncover the layers beneath the surface, but a voice in his head cautioned him against it. Attachment was dangerous. As the stallion edged closer, its nostrils flaring with curiosity, he felt a shift within himself. Perhaps this girl, whom he had dismissed as insignificant, was more than just an outsider. She represented something he had long buried, a desire for connection and understanding, not only with the creatures around him but with himself. If you're enjoying this story, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, he thought, almost absent-mindedly, as the scene unfolded before him. The tension between them hung in the air, a delicate balance of hope and uncertainty. He wasn't ready to admit it, but the change was palpable. Something was beginning to bloom, and it was beautiful, yet terrifying. The stallion, now mere feet away, seemed to sense the shift in the atmosphere. It stood still, powerful yet vulnerable, mirroring the internal battle raging within the ranch boss. He recognized that the girl had sparked something within him, a flicker of possibility he had thought extinguished long ago. As her hand hovered just inches from the stallion's muzzle, the ranch boss found himself wishing for a moment of courage, a leap of faith he had never been willing to take. He had dismissed her, underestimated her, and yet here she was, standing as a testament to the beauty of vulnerability. And in that moment, surrounded by the lush landscape of the ranch, the sun setting in a blaze of color, he realized this was just the beginning of something extraordinary. A connection that could redefine the very essence of who he was. A ranch boss struggling to tame not just a wild stallion, but the wild emotions stirring deep within his heart. The sun had dipped lower in the sky, and the air was thick with tension as the ranch boss watched the girl's continued attempts to connect with the black stallion. Each day, the stallion became more elusive, embodying wildness that seemed to mock the ranch boss's every effort. He could feel the jealousy creeping in, a bitter taste in his mouth that soured his thoughts. How could this girl, someone whom he had dismissed as inconsequential, achieve what he had fought so hard to master? Standing there, hands on his hips, he struggled to maintain his composure. The ranch was not only his home, it was his identity. He had built his reputation around being the one who could tame any wild horse. His shoulders tightened with the weight of that expectation, and yet here she was, whispering sweet nothings to the creature he could not reach. The stallion's ears flicked back, responding to her gentle words that flowed like a soft melody, contrasting sharply with the harsh calls he often made. "Hey, you could hurt yourself getting too close," he called out, his voice louder than intended, betraying a hint of frustration. Why couldn't she understand the danger? Why couldn't she see the risk in getting so close to something so powerful? Her head turned slightly at his voice, and for a moment their eyes locked. In that instant he saw a flicker of defiance in her gaze, a fire that ignited something deep within him. "I know what I'm doing," she replied, a touch of irritation lacing her voice. "He just needs someone who understands him." There was a sincerity in her words that made him pause. She was not merely a girl. She was a reflection of everything he had buried in himself. The realization hit him hard. She was challenging his understanding of strength and vulnerability. "Understanding won't break a stallion," he snapped back, the words escaping before he could cage them. The moment felt charged, hanging in the air like the crack of lightning before a storm. They stood on opposite sides of an invisible divide, one built on pride and the other on a quiet confidence that radiated from her. "Maybe it will," she countered, unfazed by his challenge. There was bravery in her stance, her feet planted firmly as she faced him. "Maybe it just takes a different approach." He frowned, trying to dismiss the kernel of insight that began to sprout in his mind. Was he wrong? Was his approach flawed? He had always believed that strength equated to control, but she was unearthing a vulnerability within him that he had long negated. The ranch boss found himself torn, battling the delicate threads of jealousy and self-doubt that began to unravel at the seams. Then the stallion shifted again, this time moving a fraction closer to the girl. She edged forward, her hand extended like an olive branch, and he felt his heart race at the sight. How could she do this? How could she seem so unshakable in the face of such raw power? He clenched his fists, desperate to rein in the tumult of feelings swirling within him. "Are you afraid of losing him?" he asked, his voice dropping to a softer timbre, surprising even himself. It was a question that had been bubbling beneath the surface, spurred by the way she cared for the horse. In that moment, it felt like they were both revealing parts of themselves they had kept hidden away. Her eyes softened, and the bravado in her posture relaxed. "It's not about losing him. It's about showing him that he can trust." The words unfurled between them, hanging heavily in the air. "Trust is a two-way street. Isn't that what you want too?" The ranch boss had never considered that trust could be a currency in their world, one that could be traded even amidst calloused hands and hardened hearts. He looked deeper into her eyes, seeing not just resolve but an invitation to explore the depths of his own vulnerability. "Trust isn't something I can afford," he replied, his voice barely above a whisper. He felt naked, exposed for the first time in years, but somehow it felt liberating. Maybe she was right. Maybe he was holding on too tightly, both to the stallion and the perception of himself. Just then, the stallion took another step forward, closer to her than he had come to anyone. The ranch boss felt a pang of fear, a flash of panic surging through him. "Wait," he said, taking a step forward instinctively. The stallion's ears perked, and for a moment, it stopped and turned its head, as if weighing its options. "You need to be careful. Let him decide," she interrupted gently, her voice like the touch of a summer breeze. "He'll show us what he needs, just like you will." The challenge in her statement hung over him like a thick fog, blurring the lines between what he controlled and what was meant to be set free. This was a moment that demanded a choice. With every passing second, he felt the walls he had built around his emotions begin to crack. Perhaps the girl was a catalyst for change, not just for the stallion but for him as well. He took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the ranch and its expectations lift slightly. Maybe he didn't need to be infallible. Perhaps, just perhaps, it was okay to feel unsure. "You're serious about this," he said, half statement, half question. "It's the only way to truly connect," she replied, her eyes not leaving his. The trust between them began to solidify, a bridge built on shared vulnerability. In that moment, he realized that the bond between humans and animals, just like between people, requires patience, understanding, and sometimes a willingness to let go of the reins. The stallion could sense the shift, testifying to their emotional exchange. Its breath came in gentle huffs as if to say it was ready to embrace this new understanding. "Look at him," she murmured, her voice low and filled with awe. "He wants this too." The ranch boss turned his gaze to the stallion, its dark coat gleaming in the fading light. There was something in the horse's stance, a simmering potential, waiting for release. The ranch boss stood there, the weight of his pride wrestling against the fleeting flicker of hope ignited by her presence. Would he allow himself this chance? Would he let the stallion and the girl lead him to a place beyond mere control? He felt a small surge of courage, enough to take a step forward, not toward the stallion, but toward her. "Maybe we should try your way," he offered hesitantly, feeling the words tumble out, raw and unfiltered. "And maybe together we can show him that trust can be a powerful thing," she replied, a bright smile breaking across her face, illuminating the dusk. As the shadows closed in around them, a newfound understanding began to bloom, and the ranch boss felt a flicker of hope, a glimmer that perhaps things could change, not just for the stallion but for him as well. As the last rays of sunlight bathed the ranch in a warm golden glow, the ranch boss stood at the edge of the corral, feeling the weight of the decision that loomed before him. The girl, with her quiet confidence, had shifted something deep within him. She was no longer just a girl from the outskirts of town. She had become a part of something much bigger, an intricate dance of trust and connection that he had feared for too long. He looked over at the black stallion, its glossy coat shimmering in the light, and felt a pang in his chest. The stallion seemed to sense the shift in the air, its movements more relaxed, almost inquisitive, as it edged closer to the girl. The ranch boss couldn't remember the last time he had allowed himself to be this vulnerable. "Do you really think he can change?" he finally asked, his voice trembling with uncertainty. "I mean, he's wild. He's never been tamed." The girl turned to him, her expression softer than he had ever seen it. "Wild doesn't mean impossible. Just like people, he needs the right approach, patience, and understanding. Sometimes, it's the gentle touch that makes all the difference." A silence fell between them, thick with unsaid words and unshared fears. Her words wrapped around him like a warm blanket, igniting a flicker of hope within the darkness of his doubt. Could he really learn from her? Could he let go of the need to dominate and control? With hesitant footsteps, he stepped further into the corral, the ground crunching under his boots. Every step felt significant, laden with the weight of his pride and the fear of failure. But as he approached, he felt the girl's unwavering gaze on him, a silent encouragement that pushed him forward. "What if I fail?" he muttered, half to himself. "Then you try again," she replied simply, her voice calm and assured. "Failure is part of the journey. What matters is that you're willing to learn." Her conviction resonated deep within him. As he stood there, watching the stallion and the girl share a moment of quiet understanding, he realized that this wasn't just about the horse anymore. It was about him, about the walls he had built, the vulnerabilities he had hidden away, and the willingness to embrace change, no matter how scary it seemed. He took a deep breath, letting the cool evening air fill his lungs. There was a softness in the way she spoke that made him brave enough to ask, "What do I do?" "Just be present," she said, stepping back, allowing him to take the lead. "Let him come to you. Show him that you're not a threat. You're just another being in this world wanting to connect." The ranch boss nodded, his heart racing as he reached out his hand slowly, fingers extended towards the stallion. It was a moment of raw honesty, a space where time felt suspended. The stallion halted, its dark eyes meeting his, sizing him up as if weighing the sincerity of his intentions. As the seconds passed, he could feel the tension in the air shift. The stallion was curious. It took a hesitant step forward, its muscles rippling with strength and grace. The ranch boss felt his breath hitch as he fought the instinct to pull away, to retreat back into the comfort of his emotional fortress. "Easy there," he murmured, his voice low and steady. "I'm not here to hurt you." The stallion snorted softly, the sound echoing in the quiet of the corral. The girl watched with bated breath, her eyes glimmering with excitement and anticipation. It was a moment that felt monumental, as if the world outside had faded away, leaving only him, the girl, and the stallion. The three of them intertwined in this delicate moment of trust. "Just breathe," she whispered, her voice a reminder that he was not alone in this. "You've got this." As he stood there, heart racing and hands trembling, he felt a warmth spread through him. The stallion edged closer still, its nostrils flaring as it took in his scent. Slowly, he lowered his hand, palm open, inviting the beast to come closer. The connection was palpable. It was as if the world had conspired to bring them together in this fragile space of hope. And then, in a heartbeat, the stallion stepped forward, nudging his hand gently with its muzzle. The ranch boss gasped, a rush of emotion flooding through him. It was a gesture of acceptance, a bridge built between two worlds that had previously felt so far apart. "I can't believe it," he breathed, a smile breaking through the tension of his earlier doubts. "He trusts me." "Yes," she beamed, stepping closer and placing her hand on his shoulder. "And that trust is everything." At that moment, the ranch boss felt a shift within himself. It was as if the years of guarding his heart, of shoving away vulnerability, had begun to crack and crumble. He could feel the remnants of his past fears being replaced with a new sense of purpose. "Maybe I've got a lot to learn," he admitted, turning to her with newfound sincerity. "Not just about horses, but about myself." She smiled softly, the kind of smile that made his heart swell with possibility. We all do, but that's the beauty of it. Every day is a chance to grow, to connect, and to be better. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a twilight hue over the ranch boss and the girl stood side by side, watching the stallion, who now seemed at ease, a living testament to the power of trust and understanding. In that tranquil moment, he felt a sense of hope for the future, not just for the stallion, but for himself, and perhaps for whatever blossoming relationship lay in the gentle exchanges they shared. Thank you for listening, and remember to leave a comment about your favorite moment.